And what we did was let's combine the performance of a heat pump, an off-the-shelf heat pump water heater, with thermal storage and some really, really smart controls. And you can reap the benefit of that heat pump, but shifting its load to the middle of the day while giving you your heat and hot water whenever you need it.
Welcome to Home Green Homes podcast. I am Izumi Tanaka, a green realtor, green home advisor, and the host of this show. Today's guest is Jane Melia, who is a co-founder and CEO of Harvest. At the California Green Bill Conference in Los Angeles a few weeks ago, I attended a presentation by Harvest, which is a smart thermal battery system. And just as you may be wondering what that is or how that works, I was quite impressed to learn about how this new technology works. So I invited Jane to the show to tell us more about it and share with my audience. Enjoy.
So Jane, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really honored to have you on my show.
Well, thank you so much, Izumi. It's a real pleasure to be here, and I'm honored to be part of this, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, thank you so much. So first of all, I am very curious who you are. I met you at the Greenville Conference in California a few weeks ago and attended your presentation, which was very inspiring. So I'm really curious what your background is. I know you're a scientist, but where do you come from and how you ended up being here?
Okay, well, let's take it back to the beginning. So I'm a civil engineer. I also have a graduate degree in fluid mechanics, which was really, really exciting and interesting. A lot of hard work as well. In terms of where I come from, so I was born in Liverpool in the UK, but I grew up in the south of France. And 20 years ago, I moved to the Bay Area. My job at HP brought me from France to the Bay Area, where I've been ever since. As I say to friends, I came here for 2 years, and 20 years later, here I am. So I really settled in, found my niche, and just love being here. So I'm an engineer. But one of my very first jobs was actually working on wind turbines straight out of grad school, which I really loved from a technical perspective. It felt like magic, right? Getting energy out of thin air, literally. And so that was really very, very rewarding. My career took me more to the business side with HP, project management, supply chain, and so on and so forth. But it brought me to the Bay Area in the 2000s. And there was so much innovation happening in those days. Back in renewable energy, right? Solar was still expensive, wind too. And there were a lot of startups forming to try and tackle those problems. So I joined a solar startup in 2008. Absolutely loved that role, loved the impact that we could have, and joined a series of other startups following that in energy storage and solar cells, in quantum cybersecurity as well, before co-founding Harvest. So that's my background. I really am, I'd say, a startup junkie. I absolutely love the fact that in a startup you have impact. You know what everything is going on, and you can really help steer the outcome of the company. So I think I'm going to be in startups forever, and particularly in clean tech. As well as being in startups in clean tech, I was also involved with organizations like the Sierra Club, like 350. So really, like many of us who saw Al Gore's movie and being, aware of climate change and aware that solutions are possible, I'm just committed to how can I make that difference, both professionally and personally.
That's so inspiring. So that brought you to create this thing called Harvest. So tell me the genesis of Harvest. I can see the thread, but I am because this is a very unique system that you created. So tell me about Harvest. How did this come about?
So it's one of those challenging situations. So passionate about climate change, aware of the technology, aware of the problems. And then my gas furnace is looking very sick and is about to die. And of course, I have to, walk the talk. I have to put in the right solution. I would have been embarrassed to put in another gas furnace, because gas furnaces, for people in the audience who are not aware, they're burning methane. Methane, of course, is a high a cause of climate change. And so for folks who are aware of it, you really need to take a different path. And so my husband is co-founder of the company as well. We thought, well, what can we do about this? Well, we'll just put in a heat pump. Heat pumps are amazing devices. They're really the heroes of building decarbonization. They're moving heat rather than generating it. They're so much more efficient than even the best gas furnace or the best electric resistance heating system. But they come with a catch. And part of that catch is it's really hard to scale them as much as we would like, because the heat pumps today operate instantaneously. So when you need heat, they switch on. When you don't need heat, they switch off. And what that means is, because we all need to heat our homes in the morning and at night, they're all running at those times of the day, adding load to the grid, driving the need for costly capacity upgrades, and not really using clean energy, right? There's no solar electricity at night. And so they're wonderful, but there's still room for improvement. We looked at what was available on the market, and we figured, well, you know what? There's a need here. And this is a solution that we can help address. And what we did was, let's combine the performance of a heat pump, an off-the-shelf heat pump water heater, with thermal storage and some really, really smart controls. And you can reap the benefit of that heat pump, but shifting its load to the middle of the day while giving you your heat and hot water whenever you need it. So, and maybe I've given a bit about my background, but, we're kind of, both of us are really committed, because Pierre is one of the people who thinks a lot about heat pumps, and he worked at Natural Resources Defense Council as well, leading their building decarbonization team. And so both of us felt really a responsibility to do the right thing and help drive that innovation that's going to allow many and more of us to transition to a clean economy. But I learned a lot in the process, because, okay, I've been interested in climate change like many folks are, but it wasn't until I was grappling with this own personal problem that I realized a few big numbers. Like, heat and hot water are 2/3 of the energy use of homes. Who knew, right? I mean, I had solar panels on my roof. I was, which is great. I was, fortunate enough to buy a house which had solar panels on since the early 2000s. So we've got solar panels on the roof, but that is only addressing 1/3 of my energy consumption, because 2/3 is all about the gas combustion engines that I had, in my tank closet and in my furnace closet. And so that was very surprising. And that just heating and hot water for homes are responsible for 10% of US emissions. Again, another big number I wasn't aware of. But the flip side is the opportunity is huge, because it's only 2 things. You don't have to deal with 1,000 things. You can tackle 2 things, and you're addressing 2/3 of the energy use of your home. And that is the wonderful opportunity, and that's what we're tackling with Harvest.
Oh my God. So Harvest, as I have your brochure, and and so smart thermal battery. So you can explain to me, and as you know, I'm not an engineer like yourself. I am a green realtor. I am just another person that's trying to do the right thing. And I so appreciate what you, what led you to this thinking, because I recently went through the same thing with my water heater. My water heater went out, and I knew that it was coming, but I wasn't ready to get the next thing, and my water heater died, and I could not put another gas operated water heater, so I had to wait 3.5 weeks for my heat pump water heater. And it just took a commitment to really walk the talk, right? So this sounds like an even better solution than waiting for a heat pump water heater to heat my waters. So tell me how Harvest works and what does it do?
Okay. So what we do is we take one off-the-shelf high-performance heat pump water heater. It's a split system. The heat pump's outdoors, the tank's indoors. And what we're doing is we've developed a control system called the Harvest Pod. And that control system is really the brains of the system. So it's going to figure out how much heat does your house need in the next 24 hours. based on the weather forecast, based on the prior usage, how your home behaves historically. Once we have that knowledge, we can say, okay, so we have to run that heat pump to generate that amount of heat with a little bit more for buffer. But we're going to figure out, well, when is the best time to run that heat pump so that we can use electricity when it's cheapest? So we can use electricity when the heat pump's going to be most efficient. You know, I learned also that heat pumps are more efficient when it's warm. So it's actually better if you can run the heat pump in the middle of the day than running it at 1 a.m. or at 5 a.m., which is when we need our heating. So we're going to figure out. So run the heat pump when it's most efficient, when you can take advantage of cheap time of use rates as well, and store that in a thermal battery, also known as a hot water tank. And then we're using that heat in the hot water tank to deliver your hot water and your heating whenever you need it. So it's just one heat pump, water heater, is delivering all your heating and hot water needs. And what we've done is, because you've got this thermal battery, we've completely decoupled the time when the heat pump runs from the time when you get your heat. And so the beautiful thing is the heat pump is using mostly solar electricity, be it from your roof or from the grid, right? Because in the middle of the day, even if you don't have PV on your roof, the grid is very clean. We're storing it for later use, and you get your heating hot water whenever you need it. So that ticks many boxes because it's cleaner for us. It's cheaper for homeowners. On average, our homeowners are saving about 30% on bills for all their heat and hot water compared to a regular heat pump system. So that's a big deal. And that's so important for scale, right? For equity. But we're also using the cleanest electricity on the grid, which means that it becomes a virtuous cycle. The electric grid can get cleaner. You know, if we're adding heat pumps that run at night and in the morning, the grid has to keep using gas peaker plants. There's no good solutions out there, right? Or add lots of lithium-ion batteries, which are great, but it's very expensive. What this does is saying, well, we can do both. And you know what? That hot water tank that you need anyway, so it's cheap, it's durable, you need it anyway, is your battery. So you don't need added cost of lithium ion. So I love lithium ion batteries. That they're fantastic. They're great for resilience. They're great for electric load. But your heat hot water load is such a big load in the house. You need a dedicated lithium ion battery for it. That's a lot of money that many hotels.
I know. Not let alone the material that requires to create the batteries too. So if I'm correct, so the water becomes the battery, like the hot water becomes the battery.
Yeah, the hot water tank is your battery. Yes.
Oh my God. Yeah, because as a green realtor, as a green home advisor, so to speak, my current configuration that I recommend to homeowners is to have solar panel, heat pump systems, water heater, HVAC, and batteries. And because of the metering, net metering rules that they came up with last year, you know, it makes sense for people to have the battery rather than send it back to the grid. So your system will basically bypass that battery, installing those power wall or any, you know, lithium battery wall on the wall, and it just kind of combines the battery function and the water tank function. Is that correct?
That's right. So for your whole heat and hot water load, we can shift it to whatever time of day it is. So if you've got solar, we're going to allow self-consumption.
Now, so this is pretty far out, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's very advanced, in my opinion. And so, how long have you had this system out there?
So we encountered this problem in 2017. I've had a system, a variant of this system in my house since 2018. So pod number one has been with me, and I'm a very difficult customer. and you know, and we spent the COVID years developing, maturing the system, you know.
Right.
I got to bake some bread, but I also did a lot working on building the company and you know, getting it patented and getting it certified, so it's going to, you know, work comfortably at home and be easy to permit, capture all the incentives. So we did a lot of work in those times, and we launched commercially 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
That's when we started selling our
Mm-hmm.
product, and we've now got
Mm-hmm.
our system in hundreds of homes, and we're looking to
Okay.
scale even more.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess a lot of folks say, you know, once we've talked through what the system does, they say, oh, the concept is it makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm. It
Right?
sure does.
And it's so nice that I can use the tank for that load shifting and use the lithium ion
Right.
for other things, but use that tank because the tank is never going to degrade over time. The tank is, you know, there's no rare earth minerals, but also it's not going to degrade. So, you know, 10 years time, it's still going to have the same capacity as it does today.
Right.
So
Right.
it's got some advantages, right? This complementarity. I say thermal load use a thermal battery, electric load use electrochemical battery. And that really makes the most sense from a cost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. So you said hundreds of homes already. Is your product available nationwide? What's your market right now?
So we focus close to home. So I'm sitting in NorCal right now, and that's where we started. And we've got 30 plus contractors deploying our system right now as we speak. We are also training contractors now in Los Angeles and
Oh,
in
wow.
County as well as in Sacramento. And so we're now really expanding to nearly all of California. In fact, if you're in a place of California and we can't support you, let us know, because we are looking to train contractors where customers are.
Oh,
And
wow.
we can meet the need, because we've now got the manufacturing in place, we've got the supply chain in place that we can supply our system pretty much anywhere in California. We've also deployed outside, right? We've deployed our system in New Mexico and Oregon, but also up in Edmonton, Alberta,
Oh,
showing
great.
this works in many, many climates, right? It's not just a California product, although I'm in California. California is a fantastic place to start a business. So that's where
Right.
we started.
Right, right. Now, so does the system require specific, like certain amount of, like any water, heat pump water heater, um, does it require certain kind of configuration in your home space? Like in my case, where my hot water heater, the tank was, it was a very limited space. It's sitting next to the furnace unit, and so I wasn't even sure that I can do heat pump there. So, what is the requirement technically, like for the configuration of the homes? Can they go into like typical home situations?
So it fits into the vast majority of homes. And that was part of how we were thinking about this. So what does a regular home have? And so you have your gas furnace. The air handler for our system goes where your gas furnace is. Most people have a water tank, not all, but many people have a water tank, often in the corner of the garage. Yes, we can go,
Right.
or in a tank closet, we can go there, or in a basement. The pod, the control unit, typically goes above the tank or beside the tank, right? You want to look close to it. And then the heat pump goes outdoors. And so it typically fits into most homes. We've have a couple of homes where, because of the configuration, it wasn't going to work. And so a couple of homes, they just built a shed outdoors. In fact, one guy said, this is great. I'm going to make a shed, which is going to be bigger. I can put all my gardening tools on one side and I can put the tank on the other. And so
Yeah.
that worked really well. But most people are able to fit it in their home. I mean, if you
I
have a
see.
heat pump water heater, it may be, say, a 50-gallon water heater, which is smaller than the tank that we're using, but it has a compressor on top. And so it takes up a fair amount of space. So our tank is no bigger than that.
I see.
We have two sizes. We have an 83 or 118-gallon tank. It fits into most homes.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you're training contractors throughout California. How are they receiving it? And does it really require very specific trainings to be able to install this system?
So it's not really different to what they do at any day, right? It's a heat pump water heater, it's HVAC, it's plumbing, it's wiring. Our training for contractors is an hour to an hour and a half. It's
Oh,
really
really?
yes, it's just a configuration of things they do anyway, right? We typically choose contractors who already like and are familiar with doing heat pumps, because that's our audience. And so the training is pretty straightforward. They really like the support they get from Harvest. They really
Yeah.
like also the fact that we've got obviously not just the installation documents and manuals, but we've got little videos that they can check on their phone while they're doing an install, diagrams to make it easy. You know, we work the way they work. But we have contractors coming back again and again and again, right? I've got a growing number of contractors who are getting that more than 10 installations, right? You know,
Oh, wow.
because they're coming back.
Yeah.
And, you know, I chat to them, you know, why do you like Harvest? And, you know, they like it for many reasons, but one is it's very differentiated. They can go to a customer and say, this heat pump is going to shift your load. It's going to, you know, the heating load, it's going to cut your emissions compared to gas by 90%, more than any other heat pump, because we're allowing you to use solar electricity in the middle of the day. It's also going to cut your bills more than any other heat pump system. So that is really differentiated. So for a contractor, it's easier for them to make a sale. And at the same time, they feel good about what they've sold.
Yeah.
It's saving money and saving emissions. And it's allowing that scale on the grid, which is, you know, not today, but it's getting increasingly challenging for grid operators to be able to add more load at the wrong times of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. So, your outreach activities for those contractors. So you were saying that you talk to contractors who already install heat pumps anyway. But have you experienced any pushback from any contractors? Because my experience so far have been that even the contractors that are listed on Rewiring America website, where you can hit the find contractor button, and they would list all the contractors that list that they put heat pump, water heater, HVAC, and whatnot. I've contacted a couple of people that I found on Rewiring America site, and I say I'm looking to install heat pump, water heater. They still try to dissuade you, you know, like, oh.
Well,
So I'm just curious if you experience any pushback from the contractor community.
I mean, we reach out to contractors on those same lists. We tell them what's available, and we invite them, you know, to come and participate to a screening and a training.
Yeah.
So in a way, our contractors are self-selecting. And so I would actually say another way of doing it would be, in your area, reach out to us. Let us know if we found a contractor in your area who's excited about doing heat pumps. And that might actually reduce the number of calls you have to make.
Yeah.
Now, we're not yet everywhere, but we are actively training in SoCal right now and in Sacramento and elsewhere. And maybe we can help you do that, because contractors self-select. Some contractors have come to us because their customer says, I want a Harvest system.
Right.
And by standing firm, they'll come to us and say, okay, tell us about this system, we'll train them. And they're becoming some of our really good contractors as well.
Yeah.
Like, if there's somebody you've worked with in the past who you like, send them our way, and we're happy to train them, particularly if they're a good contractor. You know, we're always looking for good contractors.
Right. So my burning question, obviously, is what the investment is like. You know, how does it compare to the heat pump, water heater, and heat pump HVAC systems? Yeah, because they're still expensive, you know, compared to, even with the subsidies and incentives available.
Yeah. So I think we've got some good news there. So we are an early stage company, really. We've got a really high performing system, and yet our system to customers today is about the same as a gas heating, hot water, and cooling system. Let's say if you had, or a median, right? Not a high end, but a median heat pump system. So if you want to go for a cheaper Carrier or a cheaper Ream, that's what our system costs post incentives. And yet it performs like a really high end product, and it saves your bills. And part of that is because we've chosen to make a streamlined design. One heat pump for heating and hot water, a tank does your storage, control unit, about as simple as it gets. It integrates with AC, so you can get your cooling as well, although that's a separate heat pump. But when I think about the overall budget, I'm including that cooling in it, because that's what many people actually want and need. And so the system's high performance, but because we capture a higher stack of incentives than anybody else, we can get to very, you know, competitive costs compared to other systems. And again, we save on your bills month after month. For example, you know, this is a storage device. It's a heat pump with storage. What that means is, you know, customers qualify for Section 25D of the tax code, which means you get 30% of the overall fully installed system. Whereas a regular heat pump system, you're just getting $2,000.
Right.
What that means is your tax dollars, you're getting them back. So your investment in taxes, you're getting it back in the forms of the tax credit on this installation. Because, I mean, the reason we're capturing that is because it makes sense. It helps the grid and it helps decarbonize. And so it's that win-win for it helps the grid, it helps everybody decarbonize, and it helps homeowners install it. We also, and in some locations, people capture even more. We have locations where, if you wanted to install, gas heating and hot water and AC, it might cost you in the Bay Area, about $23,000. And if you look at the incentives we're getting in the Bay Area, a harvest system can be about $18,000. And so it makes a lot of sense. And we can help. We have guides for the contractors, what incentives are available by zip code, and we can help out identifying what you can capture. But anybody in the US can get the federal tax credit of 30%, which is a big deal.
Right. So you're referring to Inflation Reduction Act tax credit. Is there any other incentives that are available, say in California, other than Inflation Reduction Act? It probably depending on the regions, and especially I know that Bay Area may have a little more than we have in Southern California.
Yeah. So there are a number of them. So one is the tech, which people may be familiar with, which is now currently out of funds, but which is coming up again in the fall, we expect. And for that, harvest customers have been capturing over $6,000, $6,100, whereas a regular heat pump system is capturing $3,100 for the HVAC. $1,000 for the HVAC and $3,100 for the water heater. So our customers are capturing over $2,000 more than a regular tech. And then there are also other incentives for if you're doing if this allows you to do whole house electrification. I've forgotten the name of that, but I can find it for your listeners afterwards. For a regular heat pump system, it's about $4,200. For harvest, it's about $6,200. So you get this nice stack of incentives, and in many cases, harvest customers get more because it's adding more value.
That's exciting.
And so that really helps. And then there are local ones, but those two I mentioned are statewide. And so that's really interesting. And then on top of that, you get the federal tax credit. So it really adds up. And it's really because I think we're now part of that movement. 10 years ago, it was, how do we solve climate change? We don't yet have the technology. Now we have the technology. And so there's a growing movement from policymakers, utilities, and homeowners and cities, like, let's figure out how we together can make this happen. And they're putting in place the right policies and incentives to make that happen. And so it's a very exciting time to be. I would just say, if you've got a gas furnace and it's getting old, now's the time. And there are really good solutions out there today that can help you really decarbonize and save money.
I know, I remember that you talked about situations where you install the harvest system in condominiums and townhomes or something. So have you seen any movements from like people who do retrofits, like developers maybe, rather than one-on-one homeowner customer? Do you have any situation where somebody may have installed a number of your systems for a whole complex, or developer doing the retrofit situation?
That is such an important case, because what you're doing there is, how do we retrofit for rental occupancy renters, right? And how do we do that? And yes, the answer is yes. We are about to break ground on a 6-unit property for a large rental property owner. And that's going to be our first demonstration with them, but that is on a property which has 170 units. So we start by doing 6, and then of course our goal, of course, is to do a really good job and allow us to expand. We're also working with another developer on an 8-unit low-income property in Berkeley. And I see this as really important because we need to electrify all homes. not just homes of homeowners.
Exactly.
And we need to do so in a way that doesn't increase the energy burden. And Harvest does that because it's so important that we cut bills by 30%.
Exactly.
And so rental property owners see that and they like it because rental property owner can get a good stack of incentives. So it's going to make sense from them, from their investment. And they like the fact that we reduce the energy burden of tenants. You know, that no property owner wants to increase the energy burden of tenants. And something they're like, okay, so I want to electrify homes, but if it's going to mean the bills of my tenants go up, that's a problem.
Right.
And we're able to say, no, with Harvest, your bills are going to go down. And that means it's that win for the property owner, but it's also the win for the tenant. And that's really,
Yes.
yeah.
So both the family homes and some of the multifamily units, does your system install with the existing ducting system? I mean, you don't have to redo the ducting or any of the infrastructure.
Right. We use existing ducts. Now, sometimes ducts are leaky, so you may need to replace one or two lines, but we're using the main infrastructure. It's actually not changing the inside of your home. If you've got resistors, it's just the warm air is going to come out. Again, we want it to be at the back end, you know. When I was exploring this, I was thinking, well, you know, I've already got a duct system. I don't want to have to add refrigerant lines and bits in my rooms. That wasn't for me. And so this doesn't change the inside of your home. You don't know that the Harvest system is there. We do have some customers, though, who, when they have their friends come around, they take them on a tour and they show off the Harvest system because they're so excited about it. But it doesn't change the aesthetic of your room, which is really,
That is so efficient, I think. You know, it's like really not adding anything more technical, but just making more entire system more efficient. What do you think the future holds? I know this is really exciting that I would love to see this system installed everywhere, including my home. But you know, like it takes time, right? Like I just got my water heater replaced, but I had to replace a furnace 3 years ago, and I asked for a heat pump, and I got dissuaded. And I ended up installing another gas furnace because I didn't know what I know today, you know, 3 years ago. So I was dissuaded by the contractor. So for all of our homeowners and, you know, rental property owners to convert, decarbonize, it's going to take a long time. That's how I see it. What is your perception, and where do you think we're going? And do you think that it's possible that we can really make a dent?
we need to, right? And that's the biggest motivation. And the good news is we have the technology to do it. So, you know, I know many people in your shoes, Izumi. In fact, until I got on this journey, I wasn't savvy about gas furnaces. I didn't know what their impact was until I started digging into my own. I know many people in that case. What I see, though, is every single gas furnace that is installed this year is a missed opportunity. And so sharing the word about there are solutions, there are incentives, there are ways to do this. To as many people as possible is really important. For example, you know, let's imagine somebody has a gas furnace and an AC unit. With Harvest, you can keep your AC unit. Just swap out your gas furnace and water heater. It's the most cost-effective way to reduce your gas without having to replace your AC unit. So there are ways that we can do it which are very modular to really help. But to answer your question, so, you know, we need to transition to heat pumps. As I said, those are the heroes of building decarbonization. And we're talking of 2/3 of the energy use of homes. We can't be burning methane for that. It's really challenging to scale heat pumps if we're always using them at the wrong time of the day because it prevents our grid from getting cleaner. So for me, the future is a world where heat pumps are combined with thermal storage by standard, as a standard. And it is doable. We're showing that it's doable. And I see, you know, just like, you know, Tesla started the conversation going electric vehicles, and now all the car companies have electric vehicles. We're starting the conversation on thermal storage. But that doesn't mean that Daikin Re, Mitsubishi, and others can't start doing the same thing, can't start adding thermal storage, maybe with harvest controls, but we can
Yeah.
all start making heat pumps better. So I believe that in 10 years, all heat pump systems will have thermal storage with it, because it just makes sense. Use your battery for electrochemical, use your hot water tank for your thermal storage, and then that solves that problem cheaply. And I see that even in the next 5 or 6 years, it's going to become much more broadly adopted. The rebates and incentives are increasingly focused on storage. So that means it's making more and more economic sense to put in that thermal battery rather than a heat pump by itself. And so that's helping drive the change. And we've seen some exciting things happening just recently. You know, I was reading that in LA, there's been new ruling about, you know, on-demand gas water heaters would no longer be available starting 2029. You need to put a heat pump instead. That's a really important first step. Up here in NorCal, you won't be able to put a gas furnace in a few years' time in the Bay Area. Not just for climate change, just because of air quality. You know, burning methane impacts air quality. And I see that happening, but that's the stick. But the carrot of incentives is helping people make the change. The stick is just there saying, be careful, there's a problem. And the carrot is saying, and here's how we're going to help you solve that problem.
Yes, I agree with you. So how can people find you, or how can, say, even contractors that may be curious about this? And when you train the contractors, do you also train them about how to support the customers with the rebates and different incentives available?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the contractors, reach us online. Go on our website, or reach me at jane@harvest-thermal.com. Be happy to answer them. And we're always looking to train contractors. We do also assist the contractors in how do you communicate what the system is, how do you explain how it works, and how do you calculate the value of a harvest system. Have a calculator which includes rebates, which includes the bill reductions to help make the conversation easier for contractors. So contractors, yes, please reach out, particularly as we're expanding up and down California right now.
Sure.
Same thing for property owners, right? We are now launching, as I mentioned, our first rental unit properties, and I'd love to do more, because that's a really underserved community, and they need to have the best technologies that save bills. So we're looking to engage with more property owners as well. And then for homeowners, there is a button called Get Harvest on our website. Click there, and Anna, Marcus, Brett, our sales managers, will be happy to have a conversation, see how we can help you out.
Okay, that's great. So it is, what's the website? It is
Harvest-thermal.
green. Oh, wait.
Harvest.green. Yes, harvest.green is the easiest one to remember. Yes.
Okay, harvest.green. Well, thank you so much, Jane. This is so exciting, and I really love to see harvest be a common name for homeowners and contractors, and I would love to be able to refer your system to my clients and my colleagues, and I would like to see it spread all over the world.
Well, thank you so much, Izumi, and thank you for helping spread the word. That matters so much. It means a lot.
Thank you so much. Well, this was Izumi Tanaka with Home Green Homes Podcast, and until my next episode.